From our Washington, D.C. studios, this is Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story tonight. The U.S. is hosting the NATO summit in Washington, D.C., celebrating the alliance's 75th anniversary. In opening remarks, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg promised a substantial package for Ukraine. It includes security assistance, immediate air defense aid, bilateral security agreements, and enhanced interoperability efforts. Stoltenberg emphasized these steps as crucial for Ukraine's future NATO membership. Earlier, President Joe Biden affirmed NATO's unity and the United States' unwavering commitment to the transatlantic bond and Article 5 of the Washington Treaty. The treaty states an attack on one member is an attack on all. The White House outlined that the summit aims to advance NATO's new defense plans, ensuring preparedness to defend all member territories. Key goals include a stronger alliance, increased support for Ukraine, higher defense spending, modernized deterrence, improved cyber defense, and combating terrorism. NATO requires member states to spend at least 2% of their GDP on defense. While the U.S. spends nearly 3.5%, and countries bordering Russia, such as Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, also exceed 2%. Other nations, including France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, fall short. Canada, a founding NATO member, spends 1.34% of its GDP on defense, ranking low amongst allies. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau faces pressure to increase military spending as Canada risks becoming an outlier in the alliance. Two Democratic senators are urging the Biden administration to appoint a special counsel to investigate U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas for alleged ethics violations. Citing concerns over Thomas's failure to disclose financial gifts and forgiven debts from wealthy benefactors, including loans and other benefits, Sheldon Whitehouse and Ron Wyden argue that these may violate the Ethics in Government Act. Despite previous attempts to seek explanations, Thomas has not fully disclosed these gifts and debts, prompting calls for a comprehensive investigation. The senators emphasized the need for transparency and accountability, especially regarding gifts reportedly linked to individuals with interests before the Supreme Court. Social media and advocacy groups have echoed these concerns, demanding scrutiny into Thomas's actions and potential conflicts of interest. The Justice Department has seized 968 social media accounts and 2 domain names used by Russian actors to operate an AI-enhanced bot farm. This network, uncovered in a joint effort with international cybersecurity agencies, spread disinformation in the U.S. and globally. The bots used AI to fabricate fake social media profiles, masquerading as Americans to push messages aligning with Russian government interests. The operation, detailed in newly unsealed affidavits, aims to prevent further misuse of this technology by the Russian government. Acting Attorney General Merrick Garland emphasized the disruption underscored the U.S. stance against foreign-backed propaganda campaigns using advanced AI. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco affirms such activities aimed at destabilizing American unity will face aggressive countermeasures. The initiative marks a proactive step in combating digital disinformation tactics on global platforms. The outcome of the presidential elections in November could mark a significant turning point for federal policy and have implications for credit ratings, Fitch Ratings said in a report. If President Joe Biden returns to the White House with a split Congress, it would likely mean a continuation of major policies in general. A victory by former President Donald Trump, on the other hand, would likely mean changes to key policy areas, especially if the Republican Party takes control of the Senate and retains or increases its majority in the House of Representatives. With a change in administration, Fitch said that there are 7 key policy areas that could have the largest impact on credit. These include trade protectionism, persistent fiscal pressures, and foreign policy. There's also the possibility of a climate policy rollback, financial deregulation, social policy reform, and restrictive immigration. Keith Edmund Gavin, who is scheduled to be executed on July 18th, has opted not to challenge his fate but seeks to prevent Alabama from conducting an autopsy on religious grounds. The 64-year-old was convicted for the 1998 murder of a delivery driver. His lawsuit asserts an autopsy would violate his Islamic religious beliefs by disturbing the sanctity of bodily integrity. Despite efforts to negotiate with state officials, Gavin's attorneys emphasize the lawsuit isn't a bid to delay execution. Alabama's standard practice includes post-execution autopsies. William Califf, spokesperson for Attorney General Steve Marshall, indicated they're addressing the issue. Gavin received a death sentence following a jury's 10-2 vote for capital punishment. A group of Louisiana families has filed for an injunction to halt the implementation of a new law mandating the display of the 10 Commandments in every public school classroom. House Bill number 71 requires the full text of the commandments alongside a context statement asserting their educational significance. Supporters argue it's not explicitly religious, but critics, including the plaintiffs, claim it violates state neutrality on religion. They filed a lawsuit arguing the law imposes a specific religious viewpoints on students, violating the First Amendment's Establishment Clause. The plaintiffs seek to block the law until a trial can fully assess its constitutionality, citing potential irreparable harm from its implementation. Louisiana is poised to become the first state with such a requirement, sparking debate over its legality and the separation of church and state in public education. Israel kills 52 Palestinians in 24 hours as operations intensify in Gaza. Details come after the break. Stay tuned and we will be right back. Welcome back. The Palestinian Health Ministry reports that 52 Palestinians have been killed and 208 injured in the past 24 hours amid Israel's ongoing genocide in Gaza. Bombings were reported across central, southern, and northern Gaza as officials in Qatar convened to negotiate a ceasefire. In early morning attacks, at least 8 people, including 6 children, from the Al-Mabouah family were killed in Nusayrat. Various other locations across Gaza, including Nasser Street in northern Gaza City, also have been targeted, resulting in numerous injuries. The Israeli military has ordered all Gaza City residents to evacuate, dropping leaflets advising them to move towards Dar al-Bala and Zawayda. This comes a day after at least 30 people were killed in an attack on a school in Khan Yunis housing displaced civilians. UN Refugee Agency headquarters in Gaza City also have been struck. 4 schools have been hit in recent days, and key hospitals in northern Gaza have been forced to shut down once again. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant claims that the 50% of Hamas fighters have been killed since October 7th. He's also announced 3,000 ultra-Orthodox soldiers would be drafted by next year. Israel's war has so far killed 38,243 Palestinians and wounded 88,243 others since October 7th last year. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice, whose latest rulings ordered it to immediately halt its military operations in the southern city of Rafah. Artillery units of the Israeli army bombed the town of Rab al-Falafain in southern Lebanon on Tuesday. Smoke rose from the areas hit after the attack. Earlier, the Israeli army announced attacking military targets for the Hezbollah group in southern and eastern Lebanon. Later in the day, 2 Israelis were killed in occupied Syrian Golan Heights by rocket fire from Lebanon, according to medics. Israel's army radio says several fires broke out in the occupied territory due to rocket launches from Lebanon. It claims that about 40 rockets were launched from Lebanon towards the Golan Heights on Tuesday evening. It has not been clarified whether any of the rockets were intercepted. The Lebanese group Hezbollah claims responsibility for the attacks, saying it targeted the Golan Division 210 Command Center at the Nafa base. Israeli soldiers are accused of routinely executing Palestinian civilians in Gaza, according to a recent report by Tel Aviv-based website Plus 972 and local call news site. Testimonies from 6 soldiers reveal disturbing practices, including shooting civilians for entering designated no-go zones. One soldier claimed, "If we see someone in a window looking at us, he is a suspect. You shoot." Orders allegedly allowed soldiers to shoot indiscriminately and even for entertainment or to relieve boredom. The military reportedly fired on empty areas and left Palestinian corpses to decay, sometimes burning occupied homes systematically. A soldier recounted that when he is bored, he shoots. "I personally fired a few bullets for no reason into the sea or on the sidewalk or in an abandoned building." Another soldier said that the Israeli military would open extensive fire on seemingly unpopulated or abandoned areas for no reason. The soldiers also described how the corpses of dead Palestinian civilians were left to decay and be eaten by stray animals. According to them, the soldiers hid these bodies before the arrival of international aid convoys so that images of people in advanced stages of decay do not come out. 2 of the soldiers also tested a systematic policy of setting Palestinian homes on fire after occupying them. Medical teams in Gaza evacuated wounded Palestinians from Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital on Sunday. This was after the Israeli military issued a warning to leave the Al-Daraj, Al-Tufa, and Old City neighborhoods of Gaza City. Video footage taken on Monday shows the exterior and interior of the hospital after patients were evacuated by medical staff. A medical source of the hospital who spoke to Anadolu agency said that the teams transferred the wounded and other patients from the hospital to medical facilities in northern Gaza. The source said Israeli quadcopter drones were heavily firing at civilians and prompting the medical teams to evacuate the hospital. Earlier in the day, Israel aircraft and artillery targeted areas of Gaza City, injuring dozens of people and displacing thousands of families. This coincided with the Israeli army's call for residents to evacuate their homes in those areas. Eyewitnesses told Anadolu news agency that dozens of injured people were transported from streets and homes due to Israeli forces targeting those neighborhoods. A 3-day peace march launched in Bosnia, Herzegovina honors the 29th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide. More than 5,000 participants from across the globe are walking from Nezuk to Potokari, where ceremonies will commemorate 30 newly identified victims. The march retraces the route Bosniaks took during the genocide, concluding at Potokari Cemetery, where 6,765 victims are buried. Attendees include representation from Turkey, Iran, Serbia, Croatia, and several other nations. The event coincides with the Vukovar Srebrenica Marathon, honoring victims of attacks in Croatia and Bosnia-Herzegovina. In 1995, Serb forces overran the UN-declared safe area, massacring more than 8,000 Bosnian Muslim men and boys. Despite efforts, more than 1,000 victims remain undiscovered. The genocide was affirmed by the International Court of Justice in 2007, and recent trials sentenced General Ratko Mladic to the imprisonment. This year's commemoration will include the burial of 14 newly identified victims. That's all from our Washington, D.C. studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon for the latest updates. Your support is needed more than ever to continue our mission of providing informative, educational, and inspiring content to people in North America and around the world. Donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.